So the John Wick franchise has been sort of a staple in Hollywood for the better part of almost a decade now. And John Wick, noticeably when it came out in 2014, was really one of the most groundbreaking action movies that we've received of the past 30 years, I would say. It really helped reinvigorate this element of really grounded, hard-hitting action with these
Mhm.
long single takes. We had sort of gotten away with John Wick. We had gotten away with a lot of the action franchises and films of the day that had a lot of rapid cuts that were more frenetic in their filming style. I'm thinking about the Bourne franchise or even some Jason
Yep.
Statham action flicks like Crank or The Transporter. And also
Mhm.
John Wick with its neo-noir style became much more apparent in recent action flicks as well. And so again, it's been super influential. Movies like Atomic Blonde, Nobody, Extraction, even Bullet Train from last year have certainly taken elements from John Wick just because of everything that it accomplished in 2014. And it became so successful that they have already made three sequels within the span of 9 years. And so this is one of those franchises that has just grown in popularity over the recent years. So much so that there's a movie coming out next month called Sisu. There was a trailer before it at the movies, and the premise is essentially World War II era John Wick who kills Nazis. So the popularity is just ever present right now for John Wick at the movies, and
Mhm.
it's one of the mainstays of action movie going in this day and age here. We finally got a chance to check out John Wick Chapter 4 after hearing so much about it for the past 3 or 4 weeks. There's just been such a fever pitch around this fourth installment. And so we went to see it this past weekend. With all of that out the way, man, I will pass it over to you. What did you think about John Wick Chapter 4?
Yeah, I also want to add to that list of movies you said that help reinvigorate or that John Wick either had an influence of. Um, where I also feel like there was a small little pocket that kept action going too, where there's the Own Box, the Eat Mans, and the Raids, I think, of the world were also like, I don't know, just movies that I know were keeping some things in fluctuation when it came to those action films, man, and what it felt to have like really grounded crazy action set pieces. So I had to attribute those to for the success of what John Wick was also able to do, man. John Wick chapter freaking 4. Wow, wow, wow. Where to begin, where to start, where to get into the nitty-gritty, man. Overall, I was super excited to see this film. The first three John Wick movies were all three films I've seen in theaters that I was very excited to watch each time. I think Keanu Reeves is just he's a treasure. I think when it comes to Hollywood, and a different kind of treasure than a lot of other actors or actresses really have, man. This dude has been in so many beloved movies, from The Matrix to I don't know, man, just anything and everything under the sun that we say. We look at Keanu and be like, man, no, this dude is a legend. And it's so interesting that now, coming into this, a lot of people, at least younger kids, won't know Keanu Reeves for The Matrix anymore. You know what I'm saying? They're going to know John Wick. And it's so crazy how interesting I think of a dynamic that is, and how time has changed, to which now Keanu's known for John Wick more than he's known for that franchise. And that's a huge franchise. Matrix ain't nothing, to mess with. But man, to continue to be relevant, I think, after all these years, and in some ways elevate your career and continue to do new things and try new things, you know what I mean? I think it's important. And I think Keanu Reeves has always brought that to the table, no matter what he was working on. John Wick Chapter 4, man, comes in here and it absolutely exceeds all expectations for me. Again, first three movies I love. I love John Wick 2 in particular. There's a Hall of Mirror scene. There's things Common have going on in that movie I really like, between him and John Wick. And this movie is really all of those turned up to 1,000. It is they said, how can we take everything we did in the first three movies and put it on crack, and just, yeah, how can we turn it up, and what does it look like to give another big blockbuster action film that we can also feel too a little bit, that we can take home and say, man, I didn't only feel the what was happening on these crazy set pieces and action set pieces, but I felt that movie. I felt something while leaving the theater, that kept me invigorated and excited and wanting to talk about the film. And I think that's important as well, man. Man. This is one of the best shot action films I've ever seen. I don't care. Somebody was like, "Oh, already it's like that." I was like, "Yes, it's like that." There are things in this movie that I absolutely enjoy. There are shots in this movie I love to a T. The way the camera is moving. There are shots that are color graded so beautifully that I just don't expect out of an action film. Action films aren't always known for, "Ooh, look how beautiful this thing is." Usually, "Ooh, look how cool that thing was," not how beautiful it was. But John Wick finds ways to make certain shots beautiful, and it lets scenes breathe longer than a lot of other action films do. This film is so good at building tension. There's so many moments where it's not just about the action, it's about the moments that we get to the action. There's a lot of downtime in between the action that I think it's undervalued by some people, but it takes a while sometimes for characters to talk and to bubble up what's coming next for the next action set piece to happen. And when it explodes, it feels like it earned that moment because it did the work. And I love that for it too, man. It is an incredible feeling, I think, to have a movie be this long and for me to be like, it didn't feel that long to me because of its tremendous pacing. The pacing to me, it was just so good. I think they did such a good job. And to add to it, all the performances are insane. Donnie Yen comes in and he's just Donnie Yen. You know, he's already I think a master at his craft. He's already a legend in his own right. I was just talking about the Eat Man movies. He was in Star Wars, just the things that he's able to do on a martial arts level. I think it will always also be beloved to myself as well, man. I think he also did a tremendous job there. But this movie is the definition of an action blockbuster. It's everything I think you want in an action film, especially if you love all the other John Wicks. If you love Keanu Reeves, man, this movie is absolutely and definitely for you. And I can't wait to see this movie again. I really can.
Oh boy, John Wick Chapter 4. I have so much to say. And just as a heads up, folks, we're going to spoil some elements about this movie. We won't give away really important story points, but we will dive into some of the details. We have to talk about some of these action sequences and a lot of the new characters. But before we do that, just my quick review of this film. I think that this might be the Citizen Kane of 21st century action movies. It is that great from the opening moments, which just throws you back into this world with absolutely thunderous sound. By the way, you have to see this movie in a premium format. You got to go to IMAX or Dolby.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you are shortchanging yourself because the opening moments had the auditorium literally shaking. You know, sometimes when movies start, people are still like texting on their phones. They might be putting things away. They might be finishing or wrapping up their conversations. No. That didn't happen here. Everybody was at attention as soon as John Wick Chapter 4 started because it grabs you and it hooks you from the very opening seconds of the movie. But here's some things that I love about John Wick Chapter 4. One, this movie is in conversation with so much film history. There's elements here of Lawrence of Arabia. There's elements of Buster Keaton. There's homages to Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman. There's homages to John Woo action movies. There's even an entire section of this film that pays tribute to Walter Hill's 1979 movie, The Warriors, which is one of my favorite movies in history. It's literally one of the things that I've rewatched the most as a kid growing up. And to see that come to life on screen was just phenomenal. Two, visually, this has to be considered one of the most handsomely made big budget blockbusters that we've gotten in the past 20 or 25 years. The camera work is absolutely mesmerizing. The use of color helps really punctuate the look and feel of every location that's in this movie. It's a globe-trotting adventure from New York City to Osaka to Berlin to Paris. They're just going to so many different locations, and everywhere has such a unique look and feel. There's just such a level of detail that's here. The attention to detail is just on a different level than what we've experienced out of a lot of modern day action movies in America. But three, and probably the most important thing that I love about this movie, and really John Wick as a franchise, is the thing that I think distinguishes John Wick from just being another silly over the top action flick that we typically see in this day and age. And it's the fact that this movie and this series of films, it's about much more than just the action and the over the top things that you might see occasionally. The story of John Wick Chapter 4 is super enthralling because once you get beyond the spectacle, we're really talking about a story that's about friendship and brotherhood, which are things that many people can relate to. Many people can certainly identify with those characteristics. And it also continues to be about this reoccurring theme that has been constantly elevated and anteed up in every single film. And that's the idea that there's consequences. There's consequences of one's actions, the idea that you can't outrun your past and you can't outrun the things that you do and the choices that you make. And ultimately, you have to confront and face those consequences. You might be able to delay it. You might be able to choose the time and the place in which you decide to face down those consequences, but you can't outrun it. You have to face them head on at a certain point in time. And I think that that's ultimately the linchpin that makes the whole mythology of John Wick just so interesting and so emotionally investing, because that story is as good as the action. It is the thing that actually hooks you from the time you see the first movie, where you realize this guy goes on a fucking rampage because somebody killed his dog. And it's like, oh, wait a second. I can relate to that. People who have pets know how strong that connection is. I'm totally on his side. And that's what they continue to maintain all throughout these movies. And so overall, I think we have a rare example here where John Wick Chapter 4 is going to be considered an instant classic because of the amount of creativity that it has all throughout the movie, because of the inventiveness of the action scenes, because of how important the story has been, because there are truly good characters that are introduced here. And really probably the most important thing is that there's actual emotional stakes. There's real consequences to everything that happens in these movies. It's not some superhero shit. It really is not, when you look deep into the fabric of everything that they've done here. And time again, I think the John Wick franchise just continues to up the ante and elevate the scope and the scale of this story to degrees that I couldn't have even imagined when we saw that first film in 2014. And now with Chapter 4, I think in all likelihood, what Chad Stahelski, Keanu Reeves, and that entire team has accomplished, it's probably the apex of this franchise and probably the pinnacle of action movies that we've gotten in the 21st century. It's really that good, y'all. It's damn near a masterpiece in my mind. We will talk about this movie in detail again and spoil some things, because what good would a John Wick review be if we didn't talk about the action? Like, we got to get into some of these action scenes.
Yes,
and there are quite a few new characters that are introduced in this movie. So again, we won't spoil any important plot lines or story points and things that happen on that type of level, but we will talk about some of these details as it relates to characters and the big action sequences. So I would just say proceed with caution. If you don't want to know anything about John Wick Chapter 4, if you haven't seen it yet, just use your good judgment and probably wait until you see the movie and come back and listen to the rest of our conversation, or use the timestamps to skip to our next review. So you have been warned. This is your official spoiler warning. First, I want to start with the new characters, because one of the hallmarks of the John Wick franchise is the ability to always reinvent itself with new characters, new villains, new allies every time out. It's almost interesting that you don't see that many reoccurring people come back from movie to movie. Really, the only mainstays have been the characters of Winston, Sharon. Those have come back alongside John Wick, but oftentimes we see the villains rotate in and out. We see some of the allies rotate in and out. And I think that that's actually been one of the strengths. But here, they probably introduced more new characters, I think, in one movie than we've ever gotten in any of the other previous 3 installments. I'll just run through them quickly, and I do want to talk about some of them and just some of their contributions to this movie. First of all, you mentioned Donnie Yen. He comes in as a character, Kane. He's a blind assassin who used to be an old friend of John Wick and plays a very, very integral role in this movie. You have Shamir Anderson, who's a bit of a newcomer, coming in playing this guy called Mr. Nobody, who's a bounty hunter, who is, sort of on the hunt for John Wick. Hiro Sanada is coming in here. He's another martial arts cinematic legend, playing a character called Koji, manager of the Osaka Continental. Also, his daughter, played by Rina Sawayama, is the concierge of that same Continental hotel. Scott Adkins is a former MMA fighter, and he's coming in here as one of the big villains called Killa. He's the head of a German high table organization within this world. And then Bill Skarsgård, noticeably, if you watch the trailers, if you paid attention, he is really the primary villain of this film, playing the Marquis. He's a powerful member of the high table. He's really the one that's sort of in pursuit of John Wick. What did you think about just this coterie of new characters that we got? It's quite a lot of people to introduce into a film in which we've never really seen them before, but with the near 3-hour runtime, we certainly went in with the expectation like, okay, well, they have to be really expanding this world out in quite a drastic way with a lot of these new characters. What did you think about just their contributions to the film overall?
Man, Hiroyuki Sanada was just such a pleasant, I don't know if surprise is the word, because I knew he was going to be in the film, but he was a surprise, I think, in a way where, man, this dude was already a legend, man. He was like just in Bullet Train, just in something else recently too, I forgot. But man, he's been around for so long, and to see him come in as Koji and do what he had to do was it made me super happy, right? Because he is always in films where he is required to be a dojo master or some part of martial arts, or here and where he's over the Osaka Continental Hotel. It's just really cool, I think, to know that they'll bring in again just legends like that, again, on top of them already bringing Donnie in. They're like, let's get Hiroyuki Sanada as well. So I really like that, man. Rina Sawayama as Akira, listen, this girl's going places. She has some things to do and to get done in the future of film. She ain't we'll see a lot more of her. Who knows where life will take her, but I know she came into this movie and she put a stamp on it. And you got to commend, really Chad for, I think, being able to give these characters screen time and make them feel useful and make them feel like their presence is not only known, but resonate. Really, it resonates throughout the kind of the John Wick universe and the way in which they're inserted into these films. I think that's a very hard thing to do. Sure, the runtime is decent, right? But you have a lot of story to tell still, even without these characters. And so to be able to integrate them, I think, into the film so well, to make them feel so important, I think is a tremendous win on the parts of this movie, man. I think they did a tremendous job. Shamir Anderson as Mr. Nobody, I called him best choice John David Washington because he looks a lot like him to me. But he was tight too. I really he was creepy. One, let's put out. He was actually low-key a creepy character. But what he had to do in this movie was, one, way more than I thought it was. Two, he just had an interesting part in all this. Again, they did such a good job of putting in this new character and making them useful. Mr. Nobody was extremely useful in this movie. He served so many purposes that I didn't see coming, but they executed, man. They really did. So I appreciate that as well. Bill Skarsgård, real quick, man. This dude is so tight to me. I don't know. It's something about Bill Skarsgård and the way I don't know, man. The dude could just act. Bill Skarsgård could just act, man. He always feels like a threat no matter what he's playing or who he's playing. Just recently in Barbarian, you know what I mean? He just always is creepy or feels like somebody you should worry about, and it's so interesting because he's so good at playing that character, man. But last thing I'll say, Bill Skarsgård's character Marquise Vincent de Gramont had the coldest costumes the whole goddamn movie, man. The dude was clean the entire time. It looked really good. The costume department ate. What before we move on, I have to say, this movie, this is one of the action movies. I think the Academy Awards, we might need to start talking about when to put action movies into certain things, man. This I think has traversed a lot of expectations. This has traversed a lot of, I think, what the rest of the year, of course, we have a long year to go, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the things in this film, man, deserve a lot of praise to me. And I think award season, hopefully, is going to be kind to this movie. I need them to be kind. Is it going to? Academy Award show is going to award show, but some things in this film, man, that I really wish will get talked about during the award season. But that's it, man. I love every character that was introduced. Good job, man, to Chad Stahelski for being able to balance all of this.
The Academy needs a stunt category. That's really what they need. I mean, beyond just the stuff that we see visually in this movie, which is all excellent, they need a stunt category. And I think that's the one art form of cinema that is yet to be recognized in the appropriate ways that it should be. People are risking their lives and pulling off some really, really incredible, unbelievable stuff in these movies, especially with the John Wick franchise. Just the amount of choreography that has to be put into this, the amount of safety and thought. This shit is extremely dangerous because they're doing so much of it practically. There are so many considerations and just the mentality and the idea of being safe and having a safe environment. It's more than just about, we got to make sure that this thing doesn't happen or that we don't stand next to this explosion. It's beyond that. It's accounting for every possible scenario and outcome because we're dealing with just elemental things that you can't control, physics that you can't control. They need a stunt category at the Academy Awards. But I'll start with Bill Skarsgård too, because boy, does that fucking family have good genes. I mean, every movie that his whole family is in, between him, his brother, and his father, like they just always look good. Like they are just tall, imposing, really intense guys. And Bill Skarsgård absolutely can just do so many different things when it comes to acting standpoint. The reason he was even in this movie is because Chad met him on the set of Atomic Blonde, which, the first movie was directed by both Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, even though David Leitch does not get a directing credit for some weird reason, probably DGA rules. But David Leitch did direct Atomic Blonde, and Bill Skarsgård had a small role in that movie, and they just met there. And so he thought about him for this role, and he comes in and absolutely owns the movie. He is the imposing villain that you need, especially to go up against somebody that's so formidable like John Wick. And of course, he just looks like $1,000,000 every time you see him on screen. I want to talk about Scott Adkins, who comes in here and just transforms. Again, Scott Adkins has done MMA for a long time. He is no slouch when it comes to physicality, but to come into this movie and just do something wildly different than what you would associate him with, and basically do kind of a blend between Colin Farrell's Penguin from the Batman, but also the Kingpin from Spider-Man, like doing like a cross between like these weird supervillains from Marvel Comics was just like really cool. He had the gold teeth, he had the big suits, he could whoop some ass too. That stuff was super, super impressive. And then to get Hiro Sonata and Donnie Yen in the same movie, and not only that, to fight each other in a movie, which we're going to get to in a second, just I didn't know that was going to happen in 2020.
Didn't know.
Thank God it did, because we needed that fucking moment on screen. But Shamir Anderson, I don't even remember ever seeing him before. I think the only thing that he's been in that I've seen might have been City of Lies, which is a movie that went really under the radar. It was supposed to have a theatrical release, starring Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker. They kind of swept that movie under the rug because just the controversy around Johnny Depp. I remember seeing him in that movie briefly, but he didn't have a huge role. So to just see him come in and just kind of own everything he was doing and make an impact and really be an important character, and just the development across the movie. Because I got to admit, like for the first maybe hour of seeing him, I'm like, well, okay, what is he really doing here? Like, does he really add anything to this franchise? Because he's a decent fighter, but he isn't the best fighter. He's more of a sharpshooter than anything. But by the end of the movie, once you see how he comes full circle and his relationship with John Wick comes into focus, like that stuff was like, oh no, this guy has a ton of charisma, a lot of electric scenes, in the latter half of the movie. So I really enjoy what he did here. But yeah, again, you have to commend them for writing such interesting characters that have a lot to do and a lot to chew on, because what I've been disappointed by in a lot of these legendary actors who probably make some of their American debuts, or they decide to, do a stint in Hollywood like Hiro Sonata or Donnie Yen, when they come to these big franchises, I just feel like they get underused. I think Donnie Yen in Star Wars didn't really do anything for me when he was in Rogue One. It's like Donnie Yen is capable of so much more if you really utilize his best talents. And same thing with Hiro Sonata. He had like 2 minutes in Avengers Endgame. It's like,
that's true.
You really need him for that? Couldn't you have just gotten like a random guy to do that? So I love that they gave them the time and the opportunity to really expand their characters and to go into these big, bold places with them and have real consequences for the story that they were telling. But let's talk about the action, because who are we kidding? People come to these movies for the action. They want to see what the big sequences are. This movie's broken up in sort of a weird way. The structure is not conventional at all. I think that there's like 3 big sections, but then there's like 7 or 8 sub action sequences that happen within like those bigger overarching sections. Like you'll get something that occurs, and then you'll get like another action beat that follows up right behind it, and then maybe one more right behind it. So it's broken up in a bit of a weird way, but really a lot of the stuff kicks off after the opening sequence, which again is sort of referencing and match cutting with everything that happened in Lawrence of Arabia, one of the greatest, one of the films that's considered one of the greatest of all time. We had a sequence there where John goes and kills one of the members who is technically above the table. A lot of the action really starts to kick off at the Osaka Continental, which again, this franchise just does such an amazing job of expanding the world, showing us just how big and how all-encompassing the high table really is. They touch all corners of the globe. And so we go to Osaka, Japan. We get to meet Hiro Sonata's character and his daughter, and how they're running the hotel. And here, all hell just breaks loose, because again, they're looking for John Wick, and you got the high table coming after him. You just got so much shit going down, and Hiro Sonata's character, Koji, is basically just trying to give him shelter, making sure that he's safe. And so we get 2, maybe even 3 really big scenes here. We get a fight in sort of a museum area with nunchucks and John Wick, which You can just imagine what that turned into. And then
Yeah.
there's also a big samurai sword fight between Kane and Koji once Donnie Yen makes his presence known in that
Hmm.
fight. And then there's other stuff that happens too with guns, and it's just so much going on. What did you think about just this whole sequence and how it sort of set the table, no pun intended, for everything that we were going to see for the rest of the movie?
Oh man, what a way to start a movie. One, we're in Osaka, Japan, one of the most aesthetically pleasing places ever. The hotel just showed how beautiful Japan was in just the hotel setting. Like you didn't have to walk around the corner, you didn't have to walk outside. It was just like, dang, this place is beautiful. And I already love that about it, man. Another big set piece the roof by itself was crazy. The roof of the hotel was a whole other set piece it was like another introduction, because I think it's like the first time John Wick fought in the movie. I think it's like
Yeah. And for Akira too, she busted out the
and
samurai
for
sword.
Akira, when she pulled off their kimono, it was like, what the hell's going on here? It's about to go down. The whole Osaka, everything was just great aesthetically. And what's so interesting about it is, you kind of spoke to how lighting was so important in this film, and how it's something about the Osaka specifically when it came to lighting that was just, it was mesmerizing, man. It was so intentional. One of the first shots of the movie, it's not first shot, but a pretty early shot in the film is just John Wick standing by a goddamn cherry blossom tree on the roof.
So
and I was
gorgeous.
like, oh, is this where we're going with the movie? Is this the whole movie? Are we getting shots that look like this the entire time? It looks so good, man. And another impressive thing about this film that even some of the other John Wicks don't do per se is the action can sit for so long. They're so confident on how good the stunt coordination is that they don't cut instantly.
Long takes.
A lot. They are very long takes. There's sometimes low key, like 5 seconds is a long time in an action scene. It
Absolutely.
is. There's like 10-second takes sometimes. You're like, okay, man, this is nuts. Like y'all are really doing something different. And it's not just like hand-to-hand stuff. There's death. You know what I mean? Like people are dying in these scenes. There's arrows going sometimes. So there's another big part of the scene is just them fighting in the hotel. There's this parts of it where the continuity is so insane. Like you have to be such a good like production, not only designer, but director in general to make this happen. There's very clearly one fight happening on screen that you're supposed to pay attention to, but there's another fight going stupid in the background. And when the camera shifts or the camera turns, they are exactly where they're supposed to be. They're exactly in the same fighting stance in the same spot. It's just small things like that don't happen in other action films that I was watching John Wick like, did y'all just really do that? Like, did y'all it's just crazy. It's crazy the things that they're doing here, man. So I absolutely love everything going on in Osaka. I love the culture of it all. Literally, Koji's men had bows that had arrows that could pierce through walls. It's just a crazy fight. Imagine there's these people pull up with guns and you're like, but we got swords and bows. You think they should lose, but not in Osaka, Japan, they not. You know what I'm saying? Hell no, they not. So it was just a really dope scene, man. I appreciated all of it.
Yeah, that the legibility of action in the John Wick franchise, like there's super legible sequences where you're not confused about placement, you're not confused about who's fighting who, where the camera is, like everything just matches up so perfectly. And that is really one of the hallmarks of what separates this from other stuff that we see. Because I think, again, a lot of the Bourne movies, when they came in, a lot of the fast-paced, really quick-cutting stuff, it worked for that type of story that they were telling, and it became super influential, even so much so that, like, James Bond, Quantum of Solace, that whole movie was like a Bourne Identity ripoff, essentially. Mm-hmm. They took a lot of that, the close quarters fighting, very close up, with the camera, but this, like, we're actually taking the camera, we're panning back, you see the whole silhouette of a person, you're seeing the choreography really come to life, and that takes tremendous confidence to know that they rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, probably until they fucking got sick of rehearsing to make sure that it was going to be perfect. Donnie Yen, when he finally decides to show up for the fight, is eating ramen on the side, and then he decides to go into the kitchen. He's chopping niggas up left and right with his samurai sword, and then he's also doing this really interesting thing because he is blind, or at least partially blind. He's putting these doorbell sounding mechanisms on the walls so that when somebody were to walk past it, it would be a ding dong and he would know where they were at so that he could
Mhm.
take them out. It's just such a brilliant small detail that they implemented here so that he can sort of level the playing field. And then just also one thing I love that I always forget about the John Wick franchise, even though it's been a mainstay since the first one, everybody's suit is bulletproof. Like they have prepared for this.
Yes.
And so
Hmm.
headshots are 1000% paramount. You have to land headshots. Otherwise, you don't
Yep.
kill people. And John Wick's whole thing is always the follow through. Like, yeah, I might take this guy down. I might put 5 bullets in his chest, but he ain't dead until I put that bullet in his head. Like, that's where it's
Hmm.
all over. And there's just always that attention to detail, and everybody has a bulletproof suit this time. Nobody is walking around just vulnerable, exposed out here. And so I just love seeing that. But then, it all culminates again with that fight between Kane and Koji, which was
Yeah.
just monumental to see that Donnie Yen and Hiro Sonata, who have never fought each other on screen before, I don't think. I think that might be the first time that we've ever gotten this. They've never
Hmm.
crossed paths in that particular manner. It's like, oh yes, John Wick, please be the franchise to do this. Like I love seeing that. And the last thing that I'll just say, the nunchuck sequence, which is like, it had to have been like 8 or 9 minutes long. It was ridiculous. Like there
Oh
were
man.
there was probably every possible combination of weapons used in that sequence. Like there were nunchucks and guns, there were guns and swords, there were knives and swords, there were nunchucks and bullets. Like it was everything at their disposal. John Wick is literally just picking up everything, but the way he just used nunchucks felt natural to him. Like
Hmm.
he wasn't a master, but he knew exactly what to do with them. But he also knew
Yeah.
he needed a weapon to accompany everything that he was doing with the nunchucks. So it was just all just brilliant stuff. And again, like I think that was the piece of the film where Donnie Yen really just introduced himself, like, oh, I'm here. Like this is kind of the portion of the movie where I'm just taking it over and I'm showing y'all, what we have here. There is that sequence again between Hero and Donnie Yen where they fight. It seems that sets up more possibly. It seems that there
Hmm.
sets up some potential storytelling there without getting into too much of the details. But I think
Hmm.
the characters of Koji and his daughter Akira, it felt like that they were really brought in here to have a bigger purpose than just this film. Did you feel that same way after we saw what we saw in the movie?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the way kind of the next scene happens with Akira and John Wick. I was like, yeah, this is for something else. This is for something else. So I absolutely felt that way. We'll have to see where it goes or how it goes or shoot if it goes low key. But it's definitely something on the horizon.
For sure. So the next big sort of section of the movie takes place sort of in the middle in the second act, and we get John Wick traveling to Berlin, Germany. There's a certain task that he has to accomplish in order to be able to forward progress the story and ultimately, sort of seek revenge against the Marquis. But again, it takes him to Berlin and he comes into contact with this guy named Killer, who we've already mentioned, played by Scott Adkins. He is the leader of the German table. And so he also has like his own nightclub. Again, this felt so much like Kingpin to me or what we saw out of
Absolutely.
the Penguin. It was like, oh my God, they're just
Hmm.
doing like a comic book supervillain. And there's two notable sequences here. The first one isn't even an action sequence, but the way that it played in the movie, it felt like it was action. And it was just a poker match between
Yep.
Mr. Nobody, John Wick, and Kane. They were at this table with Killer. They all played a matchup of poker. There were some certain stakes that were on the line, but the way that it was shot, the way that the stakes were clearly conveyed, and just also the
Hmm.
camera work made it
Yeah.
feel so tense. Like you felt like that there was like some really important stuff on the line. How did you feel about how they sort of brought this poker match to life? It might have been the most exciting poker match we've seen in movies in recent history.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, man, where they knew they had to build up the tension before everything exploded. And somehow there's just so much in this card game. They have up the stakes so much in this poker match that it it's probably like it's close to the most silent part, I think, of the movie for audience members. Like I didn't hear nobody say anything, nobody sneezed. Low key, the girl watching next to me, she was probably like one of the loudest people in the theater, but she was quiet in that part, boy. She was silent. And yeah, it's such a good build up. Like you said, in recent memory for sure, like in terms of card games that make you feel like something's on the line, something's about to happen, that tension that's built there. We haven't seen that in a very long time. So I appreciate that as well, man. And just shout out to Scott Atkins, man. Just whatever everything he was doing in that scene.
Having so much fun.
Wow. Just having, and it was so well done too. It was a character. Like that's the definition of a character. And I think that's also what's elevating not just this movie, but some of the other John Wick films is like these characters are, we're going to reference them later on down the line in film history. You know, oh yeah, you remember Killer from John Wick 4? You know what I'm saying? Like the same way that we reference people now, we're going to be referencing these same characters, man. And I think Killer is no exception.
Yeah, no doubt. I think probably the last card matchup in a movie that had me on the edge of my seat might have been like Inglorious Bastards from all the way in 2008. There was a specific card sequence in that movie which was like, holy fucking shit. If people lose or if people become hip to the idea of what's going on here, there are lives at stake. And that similar feeling was integrated here. And then happened like right after that, John Wick is sort of in pursuit of Killer. And it takes place in this sort of waterfall nightclub again that Killer owns. They built this set. This is not like a real place. They built a club with waterfalls in it. I've never seen no shit like this in my life. When I found that out, I was like, wait, this doesn't exist. Like, this isn't a real place. It's crazy. Just how good it looks, how amazing it was, how the water was so integral to the fight itself, and how, you know, ultimately that kind of weighed people down, and it was somewhat of a distracting mechanism. But although it might not have been like the most technically quote unquote impressive, just the landscape and just the sort of environment that they created to stage this showdown between Killer and John Wick was just, it was super impressive.
Yeah, even the way in which they had to have Scott Adkins, I think, maneuver as Killer in those scenes, to me were impressive. Like even the choreography they gave him is such a big dude. Imagine Kingpin could fight like John Wick. Like, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
doing roundhouse. He's like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Like, you know, like, how did your foot get up there? I did not realize your foot could get that high, dude. Like, it's crazy, some of the choreography that we're doing here. But that nightclub was beautiful, dude. It's also crazy in the middle of a nightclub. People are clearly have to be on drugs. Like, people are dying around them. And there's people just in the back. Like,
they're raging, bro. Ain't nothing gonna stop that
just
party.
Raging. Like, people are like getting axes through the face. And people are just in the back dancing. Like, y'all don't see that. It's funny. Eventually I think they end up like running away, but it's like, what took y'all so long to realize what was going on here? It's great, but it's so beautiful. The nightclub is beautiful. The waterfalls are beautiful. Like you said, they use it as another mechanism for the way the scenes play out. The water, that is, it's just really dope. Because I could tell in that scene, they were like, because even myself in that scene, I was like, oh, we're at another nightclub. What does that mean? You know, if there's two ways to go, either I'm like, oh, another nightclub, or there's something new. And they brought something new and fresh with the way the nightclub was set up, and with Killer as a character in general. I was like, okay, I like this. Yeah,
because there was, you know, that's a really good point, because in chapter 2, there was that big nightclub sequence, but it was sort of in like this Roman Colosseum. It was open air, which is like just such a phenomenal scene in chapter 2. And it's like there was a lot of music and raving and all that stuff going on in the background. So it did feel sort of similar, like, oh, they're kind of doing this again, but they made it just so totally different and just so totally unique to this film. And again, it just helped serve the purpose of the story that they were telling. Now, the final act of this movie, literally the entire final act, is an action set piece, which I didn't expect coming into this movie, but the whole final act takes place in Paris. And I gotta admit, I gotta be completely honest, as we were watching the movie and we knew it was going to be long, 2 hours and 49 minutes, after the whole Killer nightclub sequence in Berlin, I'm like, okay, this is good, but it's pretty standard. It's like, it's John Wick, but it's not like knocking my socks off. There have been some moments that I've loved, but it's, you know, it hasn't gotten to that level of what I've expected it to be just based off of what we were hearing. Oh boy, did that change after fucking Paris, France. Shit went to an absolute another plane of existence to Paris. There are 3 crazy sequences that take place here that go on for like maybe 35 or 40 minutes uninterrupted. It's really unreal what they do here. The first one takes place in the Arc de Triomphe roundabout, which is a really popular touristy spot in Paris. It's where that big monument sort of stands in the center of the city. But it's this roundabout where traffic is just like nonstop. And also, like, in real life, there's no lanes. There's no traffic lane. So people just kind of drive, I don't want to say recklessly, but it's not the safest place probably for a car to be. It's one of those, hey, anything goes, whatever you can get past or however you get to your next destination, that's totally up to you. But that's where it really starts. And this is where like the whole Warriors influence kicks in, because the Marquis puts out a hit for John Wick. They go on the radio, and every gangster and every person under the table in Paris is looking for him. And we start in this roundabout at the Arc de Triomphe. What did you think about just the traffic, cars driving in both directions, people having to avoid getting hit, and also Mr. Nobody is here with this damn canine dog who were just ripping people apart? What did you think about that whole part of the film?
Nuts. Okay. Do you know who the girl is that's on the radio? Do you have any idea who that is?
Who played her? No, I'm not sure.
I was like, who is this girl? She is mysterious. I thought she was dope. But man, the Arc de Triomphe, man, this is the one they advertised probably the most, I think, out of everything we've seen. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I'd say so.
It's in the trailers. Shoot, the Eiffel Tower is part of the IMAX poster, you know what I mean? And this is also just one of those set pieces that I just want to. I'm ready for the documentary, bro. Like, I just need to see how y'all made this, what was going down, what is the everything. I want to know everything about it, man, because it's a lot of things they were doing are so hard to pull off. There's cars being flipped, dogs jumping on cars, John Wick's still using his bulletproof suit while another dude got a bulletproof suit. And
he's also driving without a door at one point on the side of the car.
He's driving completely in a circle, what's most impressive about that is the camera didn't cut. He literally was going around in a circle in a donut, shooting like 20 niggas in the middle of the circle, just gunning them down. First of all, can't nobody shoot at John Wick. This dude is untouchable. But man, just like the technical aspects of this is just so interesting, and it's so just different again than anything I've ever seen. And I love the feeling of this movie that's like, okay, let's up the ante, because I felt the same way you felt for a little bit. I was like, man, that was really dope. I love what I'm seeing, but it does feel like John Wick. You know what I mean? Like, this is where we've been here. These are great sequences, but I knew they was holding on to something. I felt it. I was like, they are holding on. I didn't know they were holding on to this much, because even after this, the Triumph Roundabout, and we have two more after this, like, that's what I was like, oh yeah, no, this is different. This movie is different. I just could not have seen it coming. And what makes this so chaotic, like you said, there's so many cars driving around a roundabout, and he's fighting through all of this. What also makes it so chaotic is, like you said, is the warriors of the all, is the being chased of it all. It's like, this is all, the whole city is after him, and this is where he's ended up, in the most traffic place in the whole city.
And he also has to be somewhere at a very specific time. Like, he cannot be somewhere. Yeah, he cannot miss this appointment that he has.
It adds to it all. It really, it's such a good pressure device to say that he has to be somewhere. He got somewhere to go, but he has to fight all these assassins in the middle of a roundabout while 30,000 cars are driving in circles, and there's dogs and guns. It was just a lot, bro. It was what a tremendous time. What a tremendous time.
There was also that part where one of the goons got hit by a car, is flipping in the air, and John Wick still empties like 7 caps in his ass. It's fucking, I know we both laughed at that. Like, he really just did that. Like, there's no remorse for anybody. The next sequence is in an abandoned house. It almost felt like a mansion. It's huge. It's just this abandoned house.
It's big.
Mm-hmm. And I don't even know where to start, because this is truly something that I don't think I've ever seen in a movie before. And in the research of just how this whole sequence came to life, it's super specific, because I think walking out of it, we both had the same feelings. We both referenced it in our immediate reaction video we dropped. And we talked about it off podcast, how it almost felt like a video game. Well, that was super intentional, because Chad Stahelski got the inspiration to pull off the sequence from a video game called the Hong Kong Massacre, which came out 2 or 3 years ago. And I think it's actually available on PC, on the Nintendo Switch, but it's essentially this top-down shoot 'em up video game in which the whole gameplay is sort of from a top-down view. They employ that same characteristic in this action sequence, where you see John Wick going from room to room, blasting motherfuckers away with a dragon breath weapon device, shotgun, I don't even know what it is, that sets people on fire. It's like simultaneously has bullets, but it's also a flamethrower. It's unreal. And you just see him traversing this house, going from room to room, just blowing people away. It was literally jaw dropping. The whole fucking theater erupted in applause when it was done, because I think everybody at the same time was like, what did we just witness right here? What
Yeah.
just happened in front of us? What did you think about just that whole abandoned house sequence?
This is one of those moments where I wish we could just pause and do it again. We just need, can we go back 15 minutes? I'm sure everybody in this theater would agree. We need to watch that again. We have to go see the movie again, of course, like, unfortunately, but I wish you could do that sometimes because this is literally prime example of, yeah, we got to do that again. What's so also impressive about them doing the top down approach, the bird's eye view, and them drawing that influence from Call Massacre. Low-key, I actually also think of there's like a Black Ops Zombies arcade mode that's also top down like that, which you shoot around like that. But what makes this also so impressive is the 3D-ness. It's like not just top down.
Yeah.
It's like he's shooting people on the stairs, and you can tell that he's also shooting people on. It's just crazy.
It's dimensions to it. It's very layered in how it's shot.
To it. There's also a moment where, of course, he has dragon breath, but in the kitchen, he shoots the dragon breath and it sets a dude on fire just because he's like behind the stove. It was crazy. I was like,
gas of the stove.
It's gas to the stove. It's like such a small detail, but like, of course that will happen. It's just so well put together, man. This is, of course, it's the part where you do feel like you're in a video game. It's just, you're just blowing people away left and right, and it's invigorating. And you think you're going to get tired of it, but no, he turns the corner or somebody almost shoots him with also somebody also who has dragon breath. Nope, he's John Wick, bitch. And he comes back, and it's just really dope, man. It's like it's just great. It's amazing. The technical aspects are crazy. The way it's shot is crazy. The way Keanu moves is crazy. Again, what also makes John Wick impressive, of course, we love the choreography, but gun choreography is so different than hand-to-hand combat choreography. Like, to be able to make guns so interesting, it's crazy,
creative, just all the ways you can use them.
Especially, I also love John Wick. That's like his favorite thing. You know what I'm saying? John Wick had to choose between nunchucks and a gun. He's like, give me the gun every time. He's like, what do you want, John Wick? Guns. That's what he wants.
Lots of guns.
Lots of guns. And it's just dope, man. It's just dope because they follow up on that. They're like, okay, he's a master with a gun. Like, of course, like you said, you even said with the nunchucks, he's not a super master. He's good at them. He can use them. He gonna whip some ass to the nunchucks, but he loves his guns. And you can tell every time it's like, yeah, this dude is nasty. Just give him a pistol and he's nasty. But now they gave this dude a dragon breath shotgun in an abandoned warehouse with like 45 goons after him. What is he gonna do? And we get to watch that unfold. It's just a great feeling. Again, on top of he got somewhere to be still, on top of this gun, these rounds we've never seen before. It's just great, man. It's just what a holy grail of action moments in movie history. It is what it is. It is what it is.
I wanted so badly to like stand up and throw my popcorn bucket at the fucking screen.
Whole thing.
Like, what did I just see right now? Did anybody else just see that? And it was like validated by the fact that everybody erupted in applause in the movie theater. It was just like, it was just unbelievable to witness everything that they did in that sequence. It's just so impressive, so creative, just so different than anything else we've seen. The last big one of this movie, the last big action set piece, take place at the steps beneath the Sacred Core, which is like the final destination, which John Wick has to reach. This is the final mountain that he has to climb, which is almost literal in this sense, because it's like 222 steps that he has to get up. These are real steps that exist, and it's incredibly difficult. Just imagine, I mean, we live in New York City. There's a lot of steps here. It's very much a step-oriented city, and sometimes you get to some of those big parks, and they have a long stairway, and it's like, oh, this is going to take something out of me. Not only does he have to just climb and traverse these steps, he has to fight, again, more goons that are after him up these steps who are trying to kill him, trying to take him out with weapons and swords and everything else under the sun. And while this whole thing is unfolding, you think that he reaches the top, and then all of a sudden, nope, you got to send his ass all the way back down to the bottom to start all the way over. And we get a very, very cool moment between his character and another character, and there's sort of an alliance there, and you just get to see the whole thing unfold. It's like a whole war zone of just chaos on these steps, and it just went on and on and on and on. Again, just super creative, another way to just ratchet up the tension and just all the urgency that had to be felt throughout the sequence, because it's like, Jesus Christ, can you get up these steps? Please, dear God. And they just did everything that they had to do to throw at him to make it as hard of a challenge as they had to.
I cannot believe they kicked him back down these steps. Like, usually something like this happens in the movie, and then there's some like plot device, right? Like somebody comes by with a helicopter or a truck or something, and they like are able to traverse it faster the second time. Not this movie. They said, nope, you gotta fight your way back again. Wow, wow, wow. I've just never witnessed that, I think, in this way in a film before. And it's almost like give people more at the same time, it also they use it as a small story beat, like you said, between two characters to kind of try to, make something else shake. And it really was it was like a little heartfelt followed by crazy action. And I really love that they were able to pull that off to me. And what a crazy, just another thing we're going to be talking about for a long period of time in action film history. They just hit a couple of beats here that's never been, I think, seen or done before, that I can't wait to watch over and over and over and over. It's just one of those movies. So yeah, man, I really liked it.
Yeah, don't ever let me catch John Wick Chapter 4 on cable or on HBO. Like if we're in Paris, that trifecta, I'm watching the whole thing. I'm gonna be like, oh
Got
yeah, I'm
to.
here. I'm here until the end of the movie. I'm not turning the channel just because one after the other, they just continue to just do things that haven't really been seen in recent history. As we close out here and wrap up this conversation around John Wick Chapter 4, just a couple of quick things. One, we don't know about the future of John Wick as a character just yet in terms of whether they'll make another movie. Chad and both Keanu, they've been very sort of secretive about what they plan to do with the character moving ahead. We know the end of the movie. We won't get into the details of that per se, but there are other spin-offs coming. We do know that a TV series about the Continental has been long in development. I think that they greenlit that after Chapter 2, and it's finally going to be premiering really soon. I believe coming out this fall on Peacock. And then there's also the Ballerina movie, which is going to be starring Ana de Armas. That's definitely pulling a lot of mythology that was introduced in Chapter 3. We do know that Keanu Reeves will be in that movie. He just confirmed that he just recently finished up filming for that. I think it's going to take place in between Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, so it'll sort of serve as like a prequel to what we saw here. But what gets you excited about just the future of John Wick as a franchise, where they can, possibly take these two, spinoffs, and then just maybe the potential for other spinoffs that we might see in the future?
Yeah, I think the spinoff TV shows will be a product of the care I think they put into every side character that's been introduced throughout the series. These last four movies, man, throughout every film, there's always somebody interesting they can tackle. So I think between the Continental and Ballerina, I'm just looking forward to I think expanding this world even more. It's low key. It is you come for like the action of John Wick and Keanu Reeves, and then you're like, there's something to this. There's something going on with the high table that they never quite touch on completely. Like we know what they have going on, but there's still, even by the end of John Wick 4, I'm like, who are these guys? You know what I mean? There's still questions to be had. And so I'm looking forward to a potential exploration of that. Looking to potential more exploration of, again, all the characters that they decide to throw into any of these spinoff TV shows. I think Ana de Armas coming in as Ballerina can do a lot, man. I think it's a blessing, I think, for her to have been given such a, now I think, lucrative and bright universe, to be honest, that had at least been fleshed out a little bit. So now she can come in and people can look forward to her with whatever she has going on Ballerina. I think that's dope, man. I think there's something there. And I think the Continental, so many assassins then walk through that dang hotel, which again, technically, it doesn't even have to be just about the New York Continental, right? We know this is worldwide. This can be about any of the hotels that sits underneath the high table. So I think there's just a ton there that they can explore, a ton of stories. Again, more than anything, I would like for them to get into some high table lore and mythos and things like that to see what's really going on there. And I'd be a pretty happy camper there, man. Of course, a couple more action sequences. I want to see Ana de Armas potentially cut somebody, and I'm good.
Yeah, I think with the Continental, since it's going to be focusing on a young Winston who's played by Ian McShane, I think we'll get a lot of that high table mythology because his whole placement within this organization has to go directly through them. He's certainly a higher ranking officer, but he, of course, has people that he has to answer to. So I imagine it's going to be a lot between those two. And the Ballerina, of course, is going to be super just intriguing and interesting. And it's going to be nice to have a female fronted sort of big action movie out of this world, just because there have been so many badass female characters that have been, placed here. So I just can't wait to see what
Mhm.
they do with that. We talked a lot about the new characters, but there are legacy characters that come back, people that we've grown to love in this franchise. Lawrence Fishburne, of course, back as the Bowery King. I just mentioned Ian McShane, sort of as the confidant of John Wick, is as Winston. But we'd be remiss to not talk about the great Lance Reddick, who we recently just unfortunately lost at the age of 60. Lance Reddick has been a part of this franchise since the very beginning, playing the concierge at the Continental Hotel in New York City, being one of the allies, the close allies, and really friends of John Wick. And it's really, really sad and unfortunate that he passed away, a week before this movie debuted in theaters, like maybe
Yeah.
6 days at most, and had been
Mhm.
super excited to talk about this movie and help promote this movie. And he was certainly doing interviews. And then we just, sort of a sudden lost him, out of nowhere. And apparently it's due to natural causes, which, it's somewhat, alarming, but also kind of reassuring that it wasn't something a little bit more serious. But sad nonetheless that Lance Reddick, such a great talent who's really been with us for such a long time. I think a lot of people discovered him with The Wire. That's really
Yep.
where he rose to prominence, and then he's done other things outside of John Wick. But John Wick, of course, I think reintroduced him to audiences because it is such a big franchise. What would you just say about Lance Reddick and just the contributions he made not only to this franchise but to just cinema and TV as a whole?
Man, a legend, I think a beloved just human being, man, a force that was always present, I think, in film, man. Ever since, like you said, a lot of us found him in The Wire, but he had just always been working. He's like one of those actors I can say I've he just I could tell he never stopped. You know what I mean? I could tell he never really took breaks. He was always in something all the time, no matter what it was, man. And it's sad to see, that he's gone. Of course, condolences with his family, but man, to see again such an important part of these John Wick films, look, you know what I mean? He was, especially three. He was helping defend the Continental in three. You know what I'm saying? He was a beast there as well, man. So it's just crazy. Was just talking about him on the podcast too when Resident Evil TV show on Netflix, which they gave him a wig for some reason. I still don't know why. It's still a funny moment, but man, what a legend that we lost in Lance Reddick, man. Again, condolences out to his family. I can't wait to go back and watch so many of the things that he's been in over the years. I know he was supposed to be in the Future White Man Can't Jump. He was supposed to be in Ballerina. I know he was supposed to be in
Mhm.
Ballerina. So maybe we'll see glimpses of him a couple more times to be able to applaud him for the work that he's done, man. But he'll for sure be missed, man. He was in a lot. He really was. So yeah, kudos to him. And
Yeah, he certainly always brought a gravitas to anything that he was a part of. You just always felt presence when he was in the room because he commands your attention. And when he first appears in this movie, it was really nice to hear everybody in the auditorium again just sort of applaud and recognize him and have that love for him, because we have become so connected to the character of the concierge over these movies, but just everything else he's contributed to cinema over the course of his long, long career. So he will sadly be missed. But folks, with all that being said, those are all of our thoughts on John Wick Chapter 4. If you've checked out this movie, please, please, please hit us up and let us know what you think.